I was born as a woman in the patriarchal society of Nepal. This is where I live, though it's not my home. This is the Kumari Palace, known as Kumari Ghar, and I'm Kumari, the living goddess. Among many gods and goddesses worshipped in Nepal, this is a unique practice, the worship of a deified young girl. I'm believed to be a living incarnation of the family goddess of the Taleju dynasty, with power to secure the throne and the people's prosperity. I'm known as Kumari, the Virgin. There are several legends about how the cult of my worship began. However, most lead back to King Jayaprakash Malla, the last king of the Malla dynasty. According to this legend, the king used to play tripasa, a dice game, with the goddess Taleju, the patroness of his royal lineage. He began to admire her beauty, feeling that it surpassed that of the queen. His amorous thoughts were discovered by the goddess, who was able to read his thoughts. She rebuked the king and declared that if he was ever to see her again, it would be in the form of a young girl from a low caste. The king thus ordered a search for the young girl who was possessed by Taleju's spirit. There are mainly four stages to my life as a Kumari. The first one being the selection process. According to the traditions of the Vajrayana sect of Mahayana Buddhism, girls like me in the age group of 4 to 7 years from the Shakya community with appropriate horoscopes are screened on the basis of 32 attributes of perfection, including eye color, shape of teeth, and quality of voice. Since I was selected to have the best attributes, I was chosen to be the finalist. The second stage involves becoming the goddess. Other Hindu Buddhist rituals were performed by 5 senior Buddhist Pachacharya priests, the Panch Buddha, chief royal priest, the priest of Taleju, and the royal astrologer. After these ceremonies, the spirit of the goddess was said to enter my body, and I was given the clothing and jewelry of my predecessor. I became the Kumari Devi, who is worshipped on all religious occasions, and started living in Kumari Ghar at Kathmandu's Hanuman Dhoga Palace Square. The third and one of the main stages of my life is the Kumari festival. Every September on Indrajatra festival, which is the festival of the rain god, I am taken out in a palaki on a procession through Kathmandu. It is a grand carnival attended by thousands who come to see me and seek my blessings. In keeping with tradition, I would also bless the King of Nepal during this festival, if monarchy still prevailed. The last stage is where I become mortal. My divinity comes to an end with my first menstruation, because it is believed that on reaching puberty I become human again. However, even a minor cut can render me unfit for worship, and the search for a new goddess begins one more time. I've heard that a similar tradition prevails in India as well. This is evidence of virgin worship in India dating back 2,600 years ago. According to local lore, Kanya Devi, an incarnation of Parvati, was to marry Shiva, the god of destruction. But he failed to attend the wedding. The rice and grains intended for the wedding feast remained uncooked. The Princess Kanya Devi, selected after certain rituals, is a virgin goddess who stays at the Kanyakumari temple, blessing pilgrims and tourists. She is worshipped only as a virgin and an innocent child. As soon as she menstruates and becomes impure, she loses her divinity. Her power is seized, and a new goddess must be selected. Both India and Nepal is a Hindu kingdom, heavily influenced by the caste system. Among the 4 castes, Brahmins reside at the top of the hierarchy, followed by Kshatris, Vaishyas, and Sudras. The Sudras being considered as untouchables. The lowest castes are often ill-treated, and the most vulnerable to discrimination. Hence, goddess Taleju punished King Jayaprakash Malla by establishing herself in the body of a lower caste girl, forcing the king to worship a woman beneath him in the hierarchy. Therefore, it is difficult to judge whether the Kumari system acts to uplift the position of women and lower castes or to confirm the usual patterns of domination and discrimination. Women have been subordinate to men in our society for centuries. In this patriarchal society, decision-making power resides with men. In rural areas, females are perceived only as means of producing progeny to carry on the family name. They are functional units, valuable for their uses. The preference of sons over daughters become apparent when husbands or in-laws abuse their wives for not giving birth to sons. Though females outnumber males in the overall population, very little has been done to uplift the status of women. The literacy rate among women is lower as compared to those of men. This inhibits other opportunities such as employment and thus economic security as a whole. In a male-dominated society, it is remarkable that a low-caste female is worshipped by the king and other Nepali population, and it might be argued that the Kumari system is actually evidence of the special position occupied by women in our society. At the same time, it should be noted that according to the myth, being forced to worship a low-caste female was intended as a punishment for the king, perhaps emphasizing the undesirability of such a relationship. It might also be observed that the ritual for selecting the Kumari is carried out by men on the basis of 32 attributes of feminine perfection, almost certainly defined by men. Moreover, the Kumari loses her divinity with her first menstruation, thereby reinforcing beliefs about ritual impurity and pollution that prevail in the wider society. Consequently, it might be argued that far from raising the status of women or low-caste people in Nepali society, the Kumari system merely reinforces the traditional beliefs that prevail throughout the country. Therefore, the question remains, does this system of Kumari contradict ordinary attitudes toward gender and caste in Nepal, or whether it actually reinforces them? If you ask whether I'm thrilled to be worshipped by the Nepali population, or I feel confined, having to live away from my own family and becoming the living goddess, instead of living a life of a normal child, I ask you, which would you prefer if you were me?